And welcome into the SorareData NBA Strategy Show. I am Andrew Laird. You can find me as Lairdinho on Sorare. Joined once again by our friends over from SorareFP, Alex, TiltCityFC, Keith, Gator Guy 231. Gentlemen, today, to try to mush a player that we pumped accidentally 3 weeks ago so that we can get back in, celebrating Anthony Davis's return to normalcy, maybe? No, we can celebrate it.
Ooh,
that's
that's
harsh.
so
I apologize
true.
for that.
The Jarrett Allen flu last night.
That's right.
He didn't want no part of him.
No part of him. So, yeah, for those of you who have not caught all of our shows, and there are so many of them, you should go back. I think this is episode 7. But we talked about Anthony Davis. Was it like 3 weeks ago? Could it have only been 2 weeks?
Seems about right. It was whenever we kicked off him deciding to go into an insane run of form. So find just before the insane run of form, you'll find out when we touted him.
Right. As we were all like, man, he looks pretty underpriced. And then we did what everyone does and ignored our own advice and didn't buy him.
I did.
Well, right. Not right away.
There's only
right.
one of the three of us. One of
the three of us ended up with Anthony Davis. And then all of a sudden, Anthony Davis goes on this absurd tear to the point where he actually broke the SorareData player rankings because we had the page set up to a max L10 of 65.
Oh my God.
And we were like,
that's so funny.
We'll be fine. And then all of a sudden it was like, why isn't he on the rankings page anymore? And it's because the guy went to an L10 of 66. So we had to literally adjust the page just for Anthony Davis. And then we got an Anthony Davis game last night where he scored 9 points, 9 fantasy points. Guys, do you know what his L10 will be next game week?
That's way above my pay grade.
61. It's still smashing. Like everyone's like, oh, the 9 will help. And it's like the 9 will make him still the highest player on the platform. So he's been doing it by literally just smashing every statistical category that you want. He is out tonight. This is Wednesday, December 7th. Tonight or tomorrow, I don't know when they play, whenever it is. And tonight. So it seems a little weird to now talk like, what do you do with Anthony Davis? Because obviously you don't play him. But Alex, actually, I'll start with this. Where have you been playing your Anthony Davis limited card?
So for what it's worth, I have sold him. I sold him before this game week.
Oh, okay.
I turned a nice profit on him, believe it or not. I actually sold him before the 55-point game, so 90 Sorare points. So I didn't get that bump. But okay. I played him next to Luka. I used he and Luka Limited in Rare Champion, and it went very well for a while. And then we all started asking the same question we're asking on the show, and is it too high? And when he passed Luka, I was like, I don't want any part of this. Not that it makes a difference, because like Luka's L10 might as well be 67 or whatever AD's was. Sure. And you can just justify playing the other one. But I was playing him in Rare Champion. And as he went higher and as we inch closer to not being able to use limiteds in rare competitions, I decided to cut ties. Same time LeBron came back, and then of course he goes off even more. But that's where I've been playing, or where I was playing him, and now he's signed off.
Keith, did you make any decisions on your like top end limited cards because of the announcement that you won't be able to play them in rare competitions starting? I think it's game week 17, right?
Yeah, I haven't moved anything yet. I mean, I guess it is what it is. I mean, at that point, they're still the great cards for limited. So,
yeah,
you know, they might erode in value a little bit. But, you know, people that are still in limited are still going to need Lucas. They're still going to need Giannis. Depending on how long the flu keeps Anthony Davis down, they might need Anthony Davis. But, I mean, I don't think that directs your decision.
Okay, that's reasonable. I wanted to address the first comment that we had in chat, which was actually 3 hours before we even started. So Noam was like, well, if you play Davis in Champion, then his L10 doesn't really matter because you get the MVP spot, so it doesn't matter. So the way that I was looking at it is it becomes really difficult to play Davis and Luka, or it's pretty much those. I mean, it's not just those two, but
those two are really brutal.
But it's really like if your first kind of L10 cap guy costs 60, then you have to be really creative, and dare I just say lucky,
right?
With all the other guys that you get. So like that's why it matters. And we do see that like most Davis cards are played in Champion. So like I'm guessing that a lot of people who had Davis before this absurd run were playing him as their second guy, because like,
right. I get what you're saying. Yeah. As their second guy, and now he is the first.
Right. And now you really can't, and not that you can't, but it becomes much more difficult to play him as a second guy because he probably is your first now. And so like whoever the second is. And so do you think we see, like, where do you think we see this movement go of people who have been playing? Like if you had Luka, or you had him, Alex, right? You had Luka and Davis.
Yeah.
Let's pretend you still have Davis. Like, how do you deal with this? If in fact, let me just add to the hypotheticals here. If you have Luka and you have Anthony Davis and you cannot play them in the rare competitions, meaning the limiteds, what do you do?
I have a hard time justifying, like, it doesn't matter Luka MVP or AD MVP. If you're playing them, you're still playing whoever's the lowest, and that just happens to be Luka right now. So the answer to the question is L10 too high? Is his L10's only as high as your number 2 player? If I have both of them, I'm probably, assuming health, which is always fun with AD, I'm probably like trying. Giannis's L10 right now, for that to be your number 2 player, I think makes a ton of sense. So my answer is go out and get Giannis and play him with Luka. I wouldn't play AD right now. I wouldn't play him at 66, even if he's my MVP. It might just be like some sort of dissonance on my part, but I think he's capped out. Like, I don't think he's going to continue to put up 55 and 15. I think that was a fun little, not fluke, but it was an AD game that he'll have every now and then, and that's great. But for the most part, he's going to settle in right around there, and you're not going to get a ton of excess points. So I would sell him no matter. I mean, it looks like his value is still high enough to make a little bit of a profit on. I don't know.
So I think there's one thing we glossed over on the whole Davis subject is what caused the Davis eruption.
Yeah, I had no idea.
Which LeBron was gone for a lot of that.
Yeah.
LeBron was gone for a lot of that. And then the second part, which you kind of alluded to, Alex, but it's like we haven't seen AD be that healthy for probably back to like Pelicans. Like, he doesn't not miss games. That's just not what he does. So I think that's kind of what always, like, even when we had kind of stumbled on he's too cheap, like that was what was keeping the price down, was the fact of, if people are unfamiliar with Anthony Davis, watch the Underdog NBA tweet when it says Anthony Davis in the locker room, because it's just constant LOL. Like, I think somebody last night was like, it's been too long. Like, because he went like a week without going to the locker room. Like, it's been too long. Like, he had to return. So I think the twofold, now we have LeBron back, and now specifically the Lakers are playing better. So LeBron's probably going to hang around for a little bit longer. And then, you have Davis going on kind of a really good health run. And, unfortunately, history has kind of showed us that that's a rarity for him.
Wasn't there one game where he went to the locker room and came back, like during this stretch, or did I make that up?
I mean, that's normally what he does. He kind of just goes often.
Yeah.
That sounds like a prescription commercial.
Right. Yeah. If you go
too often.
Yeah. So the kind of the thinking with Davis is what I did recently with Devin Booker. That it felt like Devin Booker got a little too high to like play him how I was playing him. And I don't have Luka. I don't have Anthony Davis. I don't have Embiid. I don't have Jokic. I don't have Tatum, and I don't have Giannis. And all of that coming out of my mouth now helps me realize why I don't win enough in champions. However, it did just feel like once a guy gets to a certain L10, they basically become impossible to play in contender, certainly. Like I had been trying to use this method of like playing 3 of those like deadline cheat day guys together with like Lillard or like Harden now that he's back. And from what I've seen, very few people do this. Like I did it in rare contender recently with Steph, where I was like, I'm going to play Steph because we had like, it was back when Noel was like a 8 or an 11 or whatever it was. And there were a few others. It was probably a Kuminga week, and which I missed this week anyway. But clearly people don't play those types of guys in contender. I have some, like, I was looking at it for this game week that I'll show you guys in a second. But like the second star, it's really tough to get these guys if they're like 48 and above. And like Davis is almost 20 above that. But do you think, Alex, I feel like we've talked about this before, that like you probably can trade in and out of stars, that like once they get to a point where their L10 is so high, I mean, you did it with Davis, that A, they become hard to play, but B, they're also like, the price is going up because people want them, because they're like, oh, wow, those scores are great. And then the idea is once they come back down a little bit, both the scores come back down and the price comes back down, then you buy back in. I love the idea of buying back in as if you're like holding the ETH for that long. Like I sell somebody like this and I'm like, I'm spending it immediately. But how, like, do you think that's like a fully viable strategy, that you're just like, I don't know how long the list is of guys. I imagine it's probably like the top 15. Maybe we can stretch it. I'm not even sure we can stretch it to 20, where you're just like, yeah, let me just take the lower guys, expect them to kind of, I don't even want to call it regress.
Yeah, it is
progress, but like, is that reasonable?
I mean, I think so. It's been working for me. There's a certain type of player who can go off above where their L10 is. Like Steph at 51, like he could just drop an 80 and no one would be surprised. So, but like a guy like Shea kind of gets to a 50 by dropping a couple 60s, a couple of 40s, and then all of a sudden he's right there in the middle. Yeah. And I think those are the guys who you can trade in and out of. Just take a swing. Like that's why I say Giannis at 48. Like he could 2x. Like he could legitimately 2x. He's been underwhelming, but that's why it's the perfect time to buy him. If I had the ETH available and the need for a limited, I would buy him immediately, just because odds are is he does progress or regress to his mean. And I think especially with getting Chris Middleton back and having Drew on the floor, like he stops having to shoot threes and all of a sudden he can get back to his own game. That's all anecdotal, but we know what he can do. So I think sometimes you just look at that rankings chart alone. Like you can just look at it and say, this is weird. This guy shouldn't be here. I mean, even looking at his scores, they are trending up overall, but you look at what he's done versus what he can do. And it's like, you don't have to do mental gymnastics to justify going and getting him. You know what he is capable of. So yeah, I think those are just, guys have slumps. Guys have things that cause them to not be themselves. If you know what that is, and if you can just look at that chart, like who stands out, and I see AD completely outperforming what we would expect. I see a bunch of guys who are right about where they should be. Booker probably outperforming, and then you get down to Tatum and Giannis, and you're like, I can see those guys going off. And Ja too, but he's been a little slow and with injuries. So I think those are just the guys you rotate out if you can. And I will say, and then I'll shut up, I think that user growth has a lot to do with the ability to profit on trading in and out of stars. Like, I can't imagine a bunch of people who are having success with the game are chasing guys like AD right now. Like when he goes up to 66, if you're like, I got to have this guy, then you're probably not doing well. And if you're not doing well, then you're probably taking losses and aren't able to swap them out and get those types of guys. You're probably dropping down a tier. So it's very dependent on the type of player and where they're at. But I do think it's a strategy that works, but there are certain guys you can just hold to.
I think you give new people way too much credit. Like, I think people see Anthony Davis and they're like, oh, that's the guy I need.
Maybe.
Or they see everybody on the leaderboard with him and all the tweets going out about AD saved me. And that's where you have like it's not buyer's remorse. What's the term I'm trying to think of? Like, why don't I have him? Like,
FOMO?
I need to have him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
like,
so
FOMO.
that's why I'm saying that I think we need more users, because I think people, if they continue to chase, they're just going to lose all their money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
And we've
But
had
that
growth.
happens that's happened for years, unfortunately, on the football side. I mean,
Yeah.
like the people that don't do well are the people that chase L5s. You know, on football side, it's L5, and they go, "Oh my God, this guy's smashing!" And it's like he is about to come down to earth, and you're about to pay the top price possible.
Right.
I mean, it's the same thing over and over again. I mean, it's why like the proper method, the methodology that we talk about here a lot, and you know, anybody doing any sort of strategy show should probably do the same, is the game is targeting undervalued players or undervalued L10s. Like, that is the game. The game is not chasing the guy that is on the run of his life. It's about selling at that time, if that's what you do.
Yeah. I just lost that. Jaime said in rare and above, I don't think you should be going in and out too much.
I'm gonna disagree with the rare statement. Super rares, obviously.
Yeah, super rare. Somebody asked me the other day, just like how easy it was to get into super rare, and I feel like maybe I'm just like influenced by what happens on the football side, but like it just feels like they're minting NBA super rares at the same pace they mint football ones, even though there are 10 times more of them.
10 times more. Yep.
So I'm not sure like what the deal is with that. So I agree that like trading in and out of super rares is not easy, just because like you just have no idea when the next one's coming out.
Let me just make the comment on why I think I caveat that rares I don't believe in. I have not seen a time that I want to go to get a rare card that I couldn't get a rare card.
Yeah, that's fair.
There's always 10 to 15 on the market. So yeah, are you going to get like the perfect price? Maybe not. But you know, you're not even like so far away, and there's always one that's coming up in auction. So I mean, it's just like when I say that you can't trade out, it's like what you just were saying with super rares. When you go, man, you know what I would like? I just, you know, got a bonus at work. Lucas super rare sounds awesome. Like, good luck.
Right.
Not
yeah.
happening.
No, that's fair. Speaking of just how many cards there are, I noticed that some of the recent ones, maybe I bought one the other day and the serial number was like 500 and whatever. And I'm like, wow, they are like going through these really quickly. But like it's 10%, and this was like limited. So I'm like, oh, that's really only 10%. We're like 25 games into the season. Like, this is actually not that much.
Crazy
when you think about it. Like, they're not going to hit 5,000 at this point. But
which I don't think we expected them to, right? I mean, like I think maybe we felt it like at first just because there were so many of them. But I mean, like you said, I mean, you like do the division of 5,000 divided by the time of the season. You're like, yep, they've got to pump these. That's how it's done.
Right. You need to make the beginning as accessible in terms of like literally allowing people to play.
Right.
More than that. So yeah, they've slowed them recently because I think just the user growth is slowing, which is expected because the season goes on. So I was looking at the limited card contest distribution for this game week, meaning like where all of the Anthony Davis limiteds are played. So I looked at Davis, Doncic, Tatum, Giannis, Curry, and Embiid. Apologies to any superstar. Yeah, I didn't do Jokic or Booker or SGA, but I was too lazy. So we had no cap this week. Actually, let me start with that. Did you guys look at the impact players at all from this game week?
And not yet.
I would assume not. So no cap. We were all like, everybody was like, the lineups are going to be the same. It's going to be like Doncic, AD, Giannis, Embiid, and whoever. And we talked a little bit about how like realistically, not everybody will have that, because I feel like everyone's like, well, if you don't have, Giannis, you have Morant, or if you don't have Morant, maybe try like LeBron. And then all of a sudden it's like, all right, they're not going to be that many players or that many teams that are duplicated. So for those of you unfamiliar with the site, if you go to SO5 and go to basketball and then this impact players, this will show you like how many cards are being played in each competition. You can sort it by either power, which is like the total XP, or you can do it by points. And then of course it's not loading for me as oh, there we go. Oh no. So anyway, so I looked through all of these for limiteds, and my discussion earlier about how like people don't play superstars in contender was like completely validated by the fact that, and in fact, I'll ask you, Keith, how many Anthony Davis limited cards do you think were played in limited contender?
Muted, buddy.
No, you're still muted.
I'm sorry. I think it's like I just said, look, there was like 570 of them. I'd go, it's like less than 10. I actually wouldn't be shocked if it's less than 5.
It's 4.
There you go.
Well done. So that was actually the same number as in rare contender, which I thought was kind of funny. Like, even though
that is funny because the percentage is very different.
So Davis amongst this group, and again, it was AD, Doncic, Tatum, Giannis, Curry, and Embiid. AD was the most popular in limited champion. And this screen's not even loading, so I can't even show you.
Yeah.
He was the least popular of that group in no cap.
Interesting.
Right. So and it makes it makes sense, because if there's so many in champion, then there are fewer that can be played elsewhere.
Good for those people.
So Embiid was actually the most popular of that group in no cap.
Interesting.
So it was basically, in terms of like popularity, it's Davis, Doncic, Tatum, Giannis, Curry, and Embiid in champion. And then in no cap, it was Embiid, Curry, Tatum, Giannis, Doncic, Davis.
So do you know what that rings to me? Or, I mean, what does that say to you, Laird?
Nobody actually wanted to play no cap.
Nobody wanted to play no cap. And it was just, these were the guys that you didn't have anywhere else to put them, but they're good enough.
So
that's how I read that.
I think also those guys, the reason it was kind of flipped is like Embiid was a really accessible star early on. It was kind of easy to get him price wise. So I wouldn't be surprised if a bunch more people had him relative to the people who got on the platform earlier and were like, let me go get Giannis and Luka.
Well, the Embiid thing too, right before the week started, or the game week started, the Harden was ruled in. So it might have also been like, I don't know how much is going to affect Embiid. I really don't want to put him in this priority lineup. Hey, no cap. Cool. Let me just experiment with it, because the rewards, I didn't really even look because I had no interest, but I don't think the rewards looked that great. It was only like 150 rewards or something like that, on all limited, right?
So I did see a lot of people referencing that. They were like, there's just not that many rewards available, but there were 20 tier 1s available. So they went with like
good.
They went with the quality over quantity. So I get that. The most popular
that
player,
much more important to
what's
play
that?
like Davis. That's actually funny though. It probably shows people didn't really look at the rewards pool, because then that should have been that much more important to play Davis, Luka, Giannis, etc.
Right. Yep. No, that's agreed. So DeMar DeRozan was the most popular player in no cap.
It's so dumb.
The list is really weird. I am like bummed that I can't seem to be pulling it up here.
We might have a new place for these Luka limiteds that are supposed to crash down in price without the rare champion is limited no cap.
I wonder if they keep it around.
Kind of hope not.
I mean, so Laird, like some people that probably watch this, but do you remember me and you were on a stream with Nellis and Quinny for the first night of NBA and like trying to explain to them Keegan Murray at the 0 L10 and everything. And like it won't leave me, but John's like face when he realized that he had like Steph. I mean, he bought like the top 5 guys preseason. I was like Steph, Jokic, Giannis, and like he was going to put together his lineup, and he was like, "Oh crap! Like I can't build a lineup."
Yeah,
like you're telling me I need to do this, and you're telling me I can go get him, and it's going to help me this week, but in a week he's worthless. And we're like, yes. And it was just like he was like having this revelation, like I don't think I can play this. Like I've got so many time obligations for other content. He's like, I mean, but I think that it brings somebody like him that desperately wanted to play, be able to produce content, all that stuff, that brings that type of person right back into play. Which I think is why they should consider it. What's that?
Are there that many of those people?
I think that there would have been more crossover from the top end football population if there wasn't a cap.
That's fair.
I mean, look, this sounds very whaley, but like you have plenty of people that have a lot of disposable money over there that would probably come over, but it's also like a time obstacle where it's just like, you know, I don't know how much I can prioritize. We don't have a long data set of how much I can yield back from this. I can't make this happen. Like I think, didn't you ask in chat, like wasn't Nanzo in one of your chats and he just like said he doesn't have the time for it?
For NBA?
I might have made that up, but
I guess that's my reasonable point. And made up. So
it's like the Ronaldo reason he can't come to the US. That's
right.
Reasonable. But yeah, that's my thought, is that they should keep it around because it does truly give somebody, you can go buy 5 guys and just play. Which I think was one thing I said about a few streams ago, was that like I thought that was one of the things that was hurting the product, is that you cannot just buy 5 guys and just go play.
I think it's okay. And I think it's okay for them to keep it and have just a low number of rewards and win and still offer like more tier 1s. Like, I don't think we're remotely close to having a supply issue where they should get rid of no cap. And it does feel like it's necessary now that you can't use those guys in rare. Like,
yes, agreed.
Losing utility is not good for anyone. And I think I wanted to say any reasonable person would understand that at some point they were going to make rare an all rare competition. But anyone who played baseball wouldn't expect that because they never did it with baseball. And
I hope they don't.
Yeah. Right. So I don't know what the deal is about that. So
what are you guys' expectation? Do you think that like rare pro type of thing is coming? Rare mix? Maybe they need to take out pro and it's like rare. Like, do you guys think that's coming? Because I think that people liked it. I for one liked it. I thought it was a cool wrinkle.
The no cap or the?
No, oh, I'm sorry. I changed subject. No, just the whole, using limited and rare.
The thing that I liked the most about it was that you were using one scarcity to win another. And like, right. You can do that now anyway, I guess, like with limited content or champion, you can win rares, right. But like, yeah, more contests, the better. Like
it's just, yeah,
that's all it is. I just think that having more of them allows us to not have to I don't want to have to go those 12 superstars that I said I don't have. I would love if not all of them were in the same competitions that I was trying to compete in.
Right. It made the Luka diversity, but I mean that also add like a layer of strategy. It's like, okay, I got Luka, Giannis, Davis, where do I use them? Am I using them in
Yeah.
rare? I think we were all pro, like if you had a top end limited team that are top end limited superstars, they belonged in rare. And now you're funneling them all back into limited champion, which will now be a bloodbath.
I thought you were saying Toppin, like Obi Toppin, and I'm like,
You're like,
where is he in this
that's
conversation?
the Knicks fan right there.
Did I miss something here?
Top end.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's I like no cap. Somebody commented in chat, where was it? Web Alexi was like, I for one lined up what didn't make my other squads in no cap. And what's funny about that is that it reminded me of what you were saying, Keith, last week or 2 weeks ago about football's underdog competition.
Yep.
That was like, oh yeah, I'll just throw my extras in there. And I
you
feel
already
like
know what I'm doing this week.
Yeah, we see that in Rare Pro in football also, that there are some people who are like, oh, I have extra rares, I'll just throw it in there. And I think the only difference, or the big difference, is that you're probably not winning no cap with those guys. And an underdog, you like might get lucky. But if you're throwing in a no cap that had a cap of like 98, you're probably not smashing into a tier 1 category there.
But I'll just say this. I don't mind. I'm literally at this point now, what you just told me about the impact players and stuff, no cap will be my number 1 priority lineup right now. Like without a doubt, if DeMar DeRozan is the highest owned player in no cap, that is a complete inefficiency that deserves to be exploited.
I'm pretty sure Anthony Simmons was 3rd.
And I'm going to go run in there with Luka, Jokic, Giannis, and say, what's up?
Yeah.
It's hilarious that the most owned guys in that competition are probably like the 2 best guys right now for capped competitions. Like we talk about how great DeRozan is in a cap situation and Simon's benefiting from that's fantastic. I love that.
Yeah, it was a weird one for sure.
But I do think that, sorry, I was just gonna say, I do think though that like my point when I brought up like the underdog from football and now this, like I think that this is like one of the most important things that we can do as players is to evaluate what our competition is doing and like what our competition is doing wrong and exploit it. It's like, again, like I haven't even looked at the upcoming game week, but I'm just like, okay, if if people are gonna not think about no cap and you're telling me there's 20 tier 1s in here, shoot, I got a better shot in there than I do in rare champ. Where like, this week, if you didn't have Tyus Jones, it doesn't matter.
What if you had Andrew Nembhard?
What if you have both? So did you want to talk about that topic? I think I messaged you that, or did you have a topic you want to get on?
Were you going to the football one first? Is that what you're talking about?
I don't. Well, I was more so just going to be like, I think you said, I want to say it was Sean. On Monday, but you mentioned how, the one thing is that like, there's no players that break a week. Like, X player gets 100, Kimmich gets 100. It's like, whatever, my Teddy Tuma can go get 100 too. Like, it's fine. But in Sorare NBA, Tyus Jones at 20 does a 65 and Nembhard, at like 22 does 70. I hate to tell you, if you don't have one, if not both, like you're not even sniffing the top of the competition, which I think is unique to the NBA and the power scoring. And I do think that that's like one thing to note as a huge difference between the two gameplays is that in NBA there is going to be nights like you have to have XYZ or what's the gift? Close the computer and throw it out the window. Like it's over. Like I have neither one of those guys. I have no chance of a top end reward.
So I agree with everything you said, but I also think people take that to say I can't win anything. And like, that's not right.
Correct.
Like there are just not enough of those cards ahead of you that you're just like, I'm not winning anything this week. Like you could still probably win like a tier 2 in those competitions. Cause like, there are just not that many guys rolling out Jones or Nembhard.
Yeah, I just don't have the tier 1 upside.
Like, yeah.
You can remove that sweat from the equation.
So you know what? Most people, you could probably remove that sweat as soon as the game week starts, but they don't realize.
This is true. This is true.
I think the inability for everybody to play anybody does make the week a lot less breakable, though, because there's a possibility that everybody who actually decided to play Nemhard this week just rolls out a crap rest of their lineup. I don't think that's going to be the case, and I think the public has been sharp enough so far that it's not going to be a huge issue. But I went over it on a video recently where like nobody played Terrence Davis, and he was in like the 10th best lineup, even though he was like the highest scorer on the week.
That's 60.
So I think there's it's different because we knew about Nemhard and we knew about Jones.
Correct. It wasn't out of. I think that Terrence Davis game, somebody got hurt and he just exploded. It wasn't like.
Yeah, I'm just saying there's a little bit of nuance there to where it doesn't completely ruin us yet because the user base isn't that big and the amount of those issued doesn't allow like everybody to just completely optimize their lineup. I think that's where the difference kind of has been with DFS that I've kind of seen or thought about at least.
I think the other trick is how quick that news comes out too. Like, do you have a chance to refresh your projections and optimize? Or did it happen 2 minutes beforehand and nobody had a chance to jump on it?
Yeah, I think the other difference, though, is that most likely those guys were in contender. Like, I think people realized that they were going to outperform their L10s by a decent amount, but their outcomes were not realistic outcomes before the game week. And so, like, you could say...
I don't disagree with you there. Tyus Jones, we knew Morant was out, so he was like if he was 40 to 50 range, was definitely like in the conversation. I don't think anybody saw Nemhard dropping a triple double, but if you told me he dropped 40, I'm like, yeah.
Right, but like Nemhard's 22 is not a cheat code. Like his L10 of 22, like that's.
But the role for a 22 was.
Sure, yeah. But I'm saying like you. Using a player with an L10 of 22 is not allowing you to play the other superstars that you want. It's not an 8.
But in Champ, you go, let's just go back to Luka AD, right? So now all of a sudden I have 3 spots left with, at that point, if I'm using those two, 60 something in cap, 22 from Nemhard, 20 from Jones, and now I'm at an 18. And now I just roll out whatever other value Alex's sheet told me to play at that point. But I mean, at 18, when you had a lot of news on a week, you're getting a viable player. Right? Or am I like oversimplifying?
I'm trying to. We're back now.
Like where Nemhards were used?
So Nemhard there were 129.
In Champ.
He was the 94th most popular player.
So he's going to be like 300 of them in limited contender, right?
And Tyus Jones was 111. Wow. 111th and 111 used.
Where were they in contender? This is like my favorite tool by far on the SorareData.
Yeah,
NBA
so
side.
he was the 8th most popular player in contender.
Excuse me.
And then Jones was 31st. Like this is where people play him.
So people really are flocking to contender.
This is the screen that I really wanted to show. De'Aaron Fox was 2nd. Like this is the no cap list. So like literally of all the guys we're talking about, Embiid.
My God, where is? But where's Luka? Can you search for Luka on this for me?
Yes, but
so dumb. I'm so mad at myself for wasting.
Luka was the 54th most popular player.
Ugh, what a missed opportunity. Ugh. This is why, by the way,
Giannis was 36th, Curry 25th, so that one was actually kind of high. I think Durant was 11.
I do think had they made the prize pool better, it would have.
Yeah, but like Laird said though, they sneakily made it a good prize pool. They just didn't announce that they made it a good prize pool.
Did they?
That was.
What did it end up being? It was still like top
20 T1s, 20 T1s,
20 tier 1s, which was more.
That's huge.
It's more than contender and champion combined.
Right.
I would still, me in my gallery, like I'd still rather play champion and try to win a rare. Like I'd still rather have
that's fair.
But
I guess what I'm saying though, literally, like, Hoop, like I could have. Okay, so this is like all about me here, so I'm sorry.
Yeah,
but like
no, I get
literally,
it.
for somebody like me, like I could have rolled out. Like if I would have just like thought about it for a second, you could have kind of predicted it. But I literally could have rolled out Luka, Giannis, Jokic, Bam, and whoever the next highest L10 in my gallery would be, and you're probably getting close to shipping it because based on these ownerships.
So I feel really bad for the people who did swerve and go AD because
that kind of sucks.
Saddled with an 8
because they made actually like a great leverage move.
Yep, and it just bit them.
Right. So the interesting thing, because you were saying you would rather try to win a rare. So that's playing limited champion, where you cannot win tier 1 limiteds.
Right.
So
honestly, I think a tier 1 limited would benefit me more than a tier 3 rare anyway. So,
so
it's wild.
Damn it, Keith.
Absolutely wild.
Yeah.
I mean, I just let it out. I don't care. I mean,
I was going to say that you're pumping the competition now. Like we pumped AD, and all of a sudden everybody's going to play their studs and no cap, and it's going to be a free for all like we expected the first time.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, We're
providing value, baby. Providing value.
Yeah. It just very few people. Marco said in chat, no one neglected champion for no cap.
Exactly. That's what this tells us. But I think this also kind of just tells us from like why Impact Players is awesome is kind of like how the different minds think. Because like, if you have like a rare Nimbard, I think you should probably be playing him in champ.
Who could have seen that coming?
But that's the line that should win.
I know.
Tatum, SGA, Giannis, Embiid.
But can you do me a favor, Laird? Can you go to like 15th to 20th? That's what I want to see, because these are people that
Curry, Murray, Mitchell, Giannis, Ayton.
Like 15th has a 26 from Curry, which Curry of course is there. But I mean, look at like Curry, Murray, Mitchell, Giannis. Like I don't know. To me, that does not look like a no cap lineup. That feels capped.
Like the 20th place, which is the last tier 1, has AD in it.
Right.
Davis, Giannis, Doncic, Embiid, Tatum. Like that's the lineup. That's my guess is that was the pre-game week optimal lineup.
Yeah, he got screwed.
And unduplicated.
Oh my goodness. But it is funny. I mean, because the funniest thing about this leaderboard is Giannis and Luka did their thing. So guess what? Like, you needed them.
And they didn't even Giannis.
They didn't smash it.
They didn't smash.
Yeah, it's like a run of the mill game week for both of them and Tatum.
But that's why they're so important, though, too.
Mitchell's the only one who keeps popping up because he went off.
Right.
He's not even really showing up that much either. Like,
no.
Right.
Where was he?
That's pretty cool.
I will say, just really quick, because there's people talking about it in chat. I'm
185.
Super hyped for Underdog.
So yeah, I did want to get to that. So yeah, everybody in chat was very excited about Underdog. So Alex, when you did your Underdog lineup, so we're only on commons now, so you're like kind of at the mercy of how bad your commons are. How easily did you find building your lineup?
Surprisingly bad. I prioritized common champ because I could actually win a usable card there, and I couldn't in common. Couldn't win a limited there.
Okay.
So I did use Jalen Johnson from the Hawks, who was would have been the first guy in my Underdog lineup. I used another guy that was solid. I used 2 of them in champion and then shoved in, Giannis, Embiid, whomever. And then I was left with a bunch of these guys that you're seeing, like Reggie Bullock, Maxi Kleber, a bunch of like 12s to 15s instead of some of those guys who are going to like a Jarrett Culver with a 6 who can give you 32 based on the week. you were really at the mercy of your commons. And all of my swaps this week, all of my allotted 1-for-1 swaps were all like my Jaden Springer with a 4 who hasn't played all year, just hoping to get somebody who I could use an underdog. I did do that more than like trying to find the least valuable guy and swap him out for something better. But when it goes to limited and I can actually like seek out the best players,
right.
I think it's really interesting kind of what we've talked about and where you kind of land here with underdog. And so no cap, the greatest resource you can have is ETH or money. 95%. And then underdog, your greatest asset really is time and knowing how to use it and knowing how to digest news. And then the regular gameplay, it's probably, I would say, like 65-35 time to money. And just the allocation of those resources and how they affect different players is very interesting to me. And I am more on the side of the time.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
And spend far too much time doing this over the course of a week anyway. So it'll just kind of lend myself and my resources more to something like this.
I like that you brought up the common contender underdog issue of like, do I play someone there or not? Because when I went right to underdog, and then I was like, the prizes are still just more commons. And I guess contender is commons too, right? It's champion.
Yeah.
So it was like, do I use, not that I have any like cheat codes, but the one guy that like jumped out when I started doing my lineup, because I like went to the SorareData lineup builder, was Kennedy Chandler. And I was like, Chandler should smash. I happen to have his limited. I probably tried to trade it in like 6 times and I just haven't yet. And all of a sudden it's like, I got him. I had like an AJ Griffin, and with all the injuries there, I was like, I could play the two of them together.
Yeah.
And I did the classic thing that I do when I put them in different lineups, basically killing both, because what I ended up leaving with underdog was, I'm trying to think, it was the Sixers. It was Tybal and House. That's who it was. And I like played them and they combined for like 7. And I'm like, this didn't work out right. But I was like, I think like there are going to be some like absurdly ugly lineups in these underdogs like competition. Like 60 is so low. And yet, like we see here, like the top score right now is 163.
Yeah.
And they have a player to go. Is that Wes Matthews?
64.
Yeah. It's a 0.
Yeah, his is 0. He doesn't play.
Oh, he didn't play. I wasn't sure if they had
I was
another
going to
game.
say, though, like, with the 60 cap, I'm not, like, trying to brag on Hoop, but, like, I'm putting some money on Hoop to win that type of thing. Like, I think that underdog is – yeah.
Put it on you.
Come on. That's – no. God, no, I don't have time these days.
You're talking about the no-cap guy. Come on now.
Yeah, I'm talking about underdog. Because I do think that the underdog, that type of thing, is like the epitome of a competition that like is going to reward the grind, like because you can't just luck into it, and it's literally going to be. I bet you underdog the first week or two is won at 6:45 my time, within 5 minutes of lineups locking, because that's going to be when the most random L10 of 2 guy is starting.
Yeah.
And it's just like, holy crap. And then you've got to then, figure out too. Here's the other real fun thing that you just were alluding to, but it'll be like crazier when it's in limited and rares, is immediately going, okay, Kennedy Chandler's starting. That's not why he smashed, but let's just say Kennedy Chandler is starting. Now, do you go and use him to fix your rare champion lineup and make that amazing? Or does it go to underdog? Or does it go here? And by the way, you have 70 seconds to figure it out. And then whatever lineup you used him in, fix that. Now use the guy that you swapped out that's still valuable. Where does he go? And like, it's a complete and utter panic.
I can't wait.
I mean, they found the 2 perfect tournaments to make us keep buying more cards.
Right. Contender and
because like we realistically the scores in Underdog are going to be really low to win. Like you don't need 5 guys to smash 60s. And not that you necessarily need that for the other competitions, but like I'm guessing, we can see the scores right here. And I realize that we're only 2 nights in, but like, or 1 night in, two nights in of this game week. But like, we're not expecting you to need 300 points for a reward. And so,
correct.
So we have like champion, which you're like, yeah, I should have like at least 1 superstar, maybe 2, not 2 that are too good. And then you kind of like want to fill it out with decent players, and you have contender, which kind of like fills up. I think the optimal lineup is 5 guys who have an L10 around 20 to 25 each. It's not the 50 guy and the 6 guy and the whatever, although we are seeing people play the really low ones in contender. Mm-hmm. And then Underdog is like all the other guys, all the lower tier guys, go by them and just wait until one of them is starting, and then you throw them in, and then no cap, obviously, you just go out and buy your Embiid, Giannis, etc.
Yeah, it's funny, like you said, like Underdog is the player pool is infinite.
It now is,
and then the uncapped, the player pool should be like 7 players. Right, like if you're doing it optimally, like you should be deciding between like the top 4 guys on a week, and then like swapping out who the 5th guy is, type of thing. It's pretty cool. Like you said, this is definitely a version that's given everybody utility.
Alex, what do you think the number is of truly like the total population of players for no cap, like the most optimal group?
Say that again?
Like how many players make up the player pool for no cap? Like you were like playing DeRozan or Simons in no cap like makes no sense. So like how many players is actually we should be considering for no cap? Like are you playing De'Aaron Fox or Darius Garland? You might play Garland. Anthony Edwards. Like you shouldn't be playing Sabonis there. Like come on.
I think anyone with a chance to hit 60. I think like all right. 25, I see 26, 27, 28, 30, 35, just eyeing it.
Guys that have that upside, you mean?
Yeah. Yeah, like I'm just looking at names.
That seems fair. But like
just, if they can't pop for a 60, like don't waste your time. But like I mean, Tyus Jones almost popped for a 60, so I guess that expands that. But like you're not
throwing him in a no cap lineup thinking you're winning.
But hold on, can we just I don't know how we got on no cap conversation, but I'm like down for it. I'm like, all right, let's get back.
Anthony Davis's L10 is not too high in no cap.
But what I was just gonna say about the Tyus Jones in no cap, it's great that he had the upside, but he's so much more valuable in capped because you're utilizing that differential from 60 to his 20 L10. Like this is like no caps would have been the greatest competition ever for Anthony Davis this week because his 66 didn't matter. So like that's the answer to is Anthony Davis's L10 too high? I just noticed, by the way, it threw me off for a second, Laird. You have Anthony Davies,
I have Davies,
Alfonso's brothers.
That's weird.
I'm like, oh my goodness, he changed. But like that was when it doesn't matter because he's not affecting you. But like to me, if you're playing no cap, if that becomes a thing, like if you're going to be a no cap person, like Giannis and Luka are like the 2 auto buys that you just have to like play in there because from like an L40 perspective, that they're just absurd.
You say Giannis?
Yeah, for me, it's Giannis and Luka will be the first 2 every single week.
Yeah,
I trust, even though his this year doesn't show it, I trust Giannis more than Embiid, more than Curry, more than Jokic on just a night-to-night basis. I think those are the 2 that I trust the most.
Yeah, it is funny how like what Alex was saying before. You're like, yeah, I'll just sell Davis for Giannis, and like it goes back to the beginning of what we were saying that if you just basically trade into these superstars, but I guess no cap you don't have to. Now you just buy both. Simple as that, Alex.
Simple as that. I mean, this is
Easy
why
game.
the no cap isn't going to be for everybody. And so you should go to underdog where you need Kennedy Chandler to win.
So I think and it's not even a negative really, because I was saying like buying guys for no cap, it's really, I was going to say like it's kind of tough to play them anywhere else. Like the utility is really limited, but I guess theoretically, like I don't think you're playing the cheat code guys in underdog ever.
Right. Well, unless you prioritize it.
Right. I don't think most
But
people would
then-
prioritize it.
Right.
We don't know what
That's why I said it's
we
really
don't know what the
interesting.
rewards are going to be, but I assume they
Correct.
should be similar.
Decent, at least the first week to promote it.
I think it depends on how many of those guys you have.
Well,
Yeah.
you can
I mean-
have all of them.
I mean, let's not forget though with underdog, and we shouldn't like cross sports and assume that they're going to do the same. But for a while there, Rare Underdog gave out Messi, gave out Neymar, gave out Magic Mike. Shame. They didn't give out an Mbappe. They should have one time. But like they were like killer rewards when they were like first piloting that program, and it kind of seems like they kind of slipped some really good rewards into limited no cap, and not a lot of us saw it.
So here's my entry into why I think cheat codes could go into underdog and only underdog.
Yeah. Only.
Yeah. Depending on the prize pool. Assuming the prize pool for underdog is the same as contender, I don't believe that there are too many instances of cheat codes that actually help you win champion. The sub 10 guys, I feel like there are very few instances of that actually happening. I should probably go through the impact players and look at lineups and stuff and even that out. But that is my hunch. I think you can use one of those guys in contender, maybe two of them, and get the same prize. If you are already good at identifying that guy and the prize pool is the same in underdog, you're probably just as good at identifying three more of those guys, playing it in underdog and winning the same types of prize.
Yeah. So I mean, I think underdog's going to take a lot more extra grind than some people are going to willing to be put in.
Agreed. And that's
eventually, and
that's why I think that resource makes more sense.
Yeah,
there.
I like
I
that.
think you have a better opportunity to win.
I've done it too in contender on like certain weeks where it's like, all right, I got that guy, and I'm like, I'm done. All right, bam and random. All right, we're good enough. Versus like truly optimizing all 5 spots. Like that sounds so silly, but like when you're in it, and two, you're having to like fight that mental battle of, oh, should I sell him? Look how much higher he went in the last day. Like, so to your point, you know, back to me. I'm betting on Hoop. Let's go, Hoop.
I played Nemhard in contender in common.
No, that's really.
Are you sure you want to bet on me still?
I'm just cancel my betting ticket.
No. Now that we've discussed it, now he realizes that.
Yes, the error of my ways.
Now that he's had to air his dirty laundry.
So looking at this, Jones and Nemhard this week, they were the cheat codes, but they're not, like, you can't stuff both of them into an L60 lineup. They were like
Jones's
22, 20.
You could. You would.
Yeah, and I don't think
your 5s.
I mean, I guess the two of them probably almost equal the entire top lineup that's going to die because of Wesley Matthews. So yeah, he's at 20 now. He probably wasn't too much higher. I mean, that's a champion lineup. Like, just balance wise.
Yeah.
You take your free spot with Luka. You play that Giannis, who is way too low in L10. You fit the 220 cheat codes, and then play another guy like Murray who can blow
and
up.
You got like a 45 guy left. That's why I was saying that I do think that those type of guys are super viable in champion.
Yeah,
because
I guess
it gives you that type of build.
I guess when I heard cheat code, I thought more of the guys when we were chasing, like Jarrett Culver when he was a 6 was the guy that I chased, and Jovic, stuff like that. The guys who like really pop off because people are like, I need a L10 of 6 or under, and you're like, I don't know, Amir Coffee, get 5 more minutes. I don't think those guys are actually viable the more and more that we play. Like they're great in a DFS lineup where you need 9 guys or whatever it is. When it's 5, you don't need to go that low unless you get I think last week there was a guy with a 0 that won both rare contender. Who was it?
I don't know.
Oh, I thought you were saying rare
I'm
contender.
more upset. I'm more upset that you said Amir Coffey instead of Austin Rivers. Just saying.
I think because we all just mutually agreed to not speak of him again.
I'm
With a
leaving.
name that should never be mentioned.
No,
I didn't want to mention
name. Oh my god.
He's been dead to me for years, yet he came alive when he was a cheat code.
Austin Rivers is the new underdog stalwart. He's always going to be eligible for underdog.
No.
Never. You're just kicking him out of your own projections.
Yes,
Look at that,
exactly.
7.
I'm just zeroing him out.
And Laird, I think that might be the only middle finger we ever see.
It's right back at me, yeah. Oh. You know what's it's like kind of astonishing to see somebody play like mid-teen minutes and not score even 10 points, 5 points. What are you doing on a basketball court this long without?
Do you know about the Tony Snell game?
I mean, yes. We're going to start calling them the Austin Rivers game soon, unfortunately.
Yeah, but before then it was Tony Snell.
Yeah.
Wasn't the game, didn't he play like 36 minutes, got 0 points, 0 rebounds, 0 assists. I think he had like 4 shots, had 4 free throws, did not register his presence on the basketball court.
A 36 billion, according to Mark Titus.
He's on. Is he? Do you guys actually have him somehow? No, it broke it.
He's not on a team, so that's why it didn't work.
Pete, don't do PJ. Playoff PJ Tucker, Bruno. It's a thing. Just hold PJ Tucker until the playoffs. It's okay.
Speaking of guys that I just zero out in my projections, like his upside projection always comes out at like 26 to 28 points. I'm like, way to help. Maybe, but he gets opportunities, and the way that I calculate it doesn't nerf his projections for how little he shoots as much as like he converts highly when he's on the floor. So I just don't even look at him. PJ Tucker is one of my favorite players just because of what he does on the floor, but he is like the worst possible. He's like the worst possible play in this game.
And Laird, just to Levis, just posted this. Yes, I do know about the Reggie Jackson game. I had him in rare champion, so I don't really want to talk about that -1.
It's incredible.
It sounds like a dead lineup to me. Last question from our friend Andy Black. So what's the consensus on AD? Am I YOLO buying his ass or what?
Nope.
What's that price chart look like?
He's not down enough yet. I would have thought him going out last night would have like nerfed his price, but it didn't. We have to wait for this to get out.
In fairness to Anthony. In fairness to Andy, he does love buying the ceiling. So, oh no!
Did you see that 1 point? It's a jersey mint, by the way. I looked at it earlier.
Well, now that we've said not to buy him, then...
I mean, as long as limited no cap is there, he's fine.
Is it?
I mean, whatever.
It is. It's fine. I'm sure.
You don't
if you like making a computer throw out of window gifts, then he's your guy.
All right. Thank you to everybody who has joined us live. If you guys could please hit the like button on the video wherever you're watching, that's always really appreciated. We're trying to do a triple stream right now, so we're on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. So wherever you're watching, if you could just share that with all your friends so that they can watch too, that'd be very helpful. I keep forgetting to do this, and I'm now doing this an hour and 4 minutes into our stream here. But go join Sorare First Pitch, Sorare FP. It's Alex and Keith's Patreon. Alex does all the work. Keith takes a lot of the credit. And Alex does a lot of does projections for every game week, every player that you're going to need, minus PJ Tucker. So if that's something you're interested in, certainly check that out because it's a great resource. There's also a Discord that is very active with a lot of successful players. So it's definitely something worth checking out. And yeah, so thank you to everybody for doing that. If we'll be back next week. I actually might throw in a separate show coming up. Working on that, so we'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah, so thank you everybody. We'll be back next week, and good luck